And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer and Larry, and we're discussing Loki episode number 2, The Variant. If you've not hit the sub button, please do so. Leave a comment, leave a like, and this is full spoilers for the episode, including a potential, I don't want to say leaks or rumors, but I'll say that. And that specifically deals with the villain that's revealed at the end of the episode. If you go to any websites that talk about this sort of thing, you're going to see articles on this. So we're not going to go into anything that hasn't been covered on sites like that. But if you're sensitive to that and you don't want to know, I guess click away. So, and we're going to start with that. And that is female Loki / Enchantress / maybe a combination of the two. The big reveal at the end of the episode. Now, anyone who's read the comics knows that Loki changes forms all the time, including there is a female variant of him in the comics, was prominent for many years, in fact. But also you have the character of Enchantress. And when you look at some of the abilities that were displayed in this episode, one would lead to think, well, that's who this character possibly is. But I think maybe the MCU has combined the two into one. Who knows? Larry, what is your thoughts on this, and where do you think that particular character is? What is the origin in your guess? Because it's all guessing at this point.
Yeah, at this point, given that the character was never known on any of the other Asgard timelines, any of the other timelines where there's an Asgard, or at least not known to Loki, in the main timeline, I should say, you're probably right. And we weren't even halfway through the episode before I realized, oh, it's Enchantress. And I 100% knew it's Enchantress. And I find it weird that there's people out there that still think it might not be Enchantress because, you have a different power set that fits more with Enchantress than Loki. The character looks very different, even different than depictions of female Loki. So it's clearly Enchantress. And, like you're implying here, it would make sense for Marvel to combine the characters of female Loki and Enchantress, given the way they like to streamline things, that it's like, oh, this Enchantress is the variant of Loki from, Earth whatever. So that's likely, but at the very least, there's still a chance that, okay, this may be a separate character, that, this isn't Loki, that this is an Enchantress from a different timeline where she was, in Asgard with Thor, Balder, and Loki, and everybody else, potentially. But yeah, either way, that's clearly who the character is to me, given, the years of comics knowledge and seeing this character.
Well, I think that it wouldn't be hard. I mean, like you said, kind of combining, but why not? To me, I have a beef with the way that the MCU and even the comics, what they try to do instead of creating a new character is basically just gender swapping current characters. Enchantress is a super powerful, really cool character. So why make that a female Loki? Why not just make it a new character so that people can follow this new character? I think that it would be great if they just went the route where they kind of think that it's a variant of Loki, but it's not. It is Enchantress the whole time. I really hope that they go that route, just because I would really like them to focus on a female character that's newer to the MCU. And I think that it would be a great way to introduce just the MCU followers to some new kind of characters, new villains, new people outside of the ones that we already have.
That's what I'm hoping, because, I think that's what we were all expecting and hoping for. And I think the second Thor movie, when they said that Loki was going to be in it, in the second one and the third one, we thought, well, in fact, I think in the second one, there were rumors that, Enchantress would show up before it actually came out. And it was weird that this character that's, very much an aspect of the comics isn't there for we've had we had 3 Thor movies and, no sign of this character. So it was a little weird. And I think it does take something from who Enchantress is just to make her another Loki variant, kind of dilutes the character a little bit.
I'll tell you, my biggest issue with the entire episode was the fact that the ending sequence took place in 2050, and I didn't see a whole lot of technology in a world where Start Tech exists. I
Yeah.
was like, I mean, when they were flipping around that vacuum cleaner, I was like, that's still a thing in 2050 on Earth. Um, did that in any way? I mean, it's a minor. I'm just messing around right now, but honestly, yeah, we saw the little hologram thing, and okay, they got cool touchpads, but
I don't.
technologically speaking, in a world where Wakanda exists, potentially Atlantis, based on some rumors, um, and Stark Tech and all that. What the hell? I was like, I think it would be a slightly more advanced looking. Just saying.
Well, I look at this. You complaining about that aspect of it, but I mean, we don't live in a real world where that kind of technology exists currently. I mean, a little bit, but not quite that advanced. But just think about the '90s, like how much it's come since the '90s, and what we're focusing on technologically wise. Like we're putting a lot of our tech into like phones and video games, like as opposed to real life shit that we need. So 30 years from now, I don't know.
Well,
I'm
and
looking at 30 years from now. Like what advancements are we going to have? What advancements are we going to see?
Yeah, you take the 19, go to the 1960s to, like you said, even now. I mean, it's longer than 30 years, but pretty radical jump in technology. And like I said, I'm looking at this from the comic book world of you have Stark Tech and
well,
Wakanda and all this shit. I'm like, whoa, you have helicarriers in your world.
what you're not looking at it from is the perspective that Spencer's saying is that this is real life, and well, you've seen Napoleon Dynamite, and you remember the year that that came out, and that was supposed to be a modern day thing, because you go to like, there's no coincidence, I think, that they set it in like a rural Alabama town because you go to certain towns in this country and you'd swear you were 20 years back. America is a big place, so in this town, yeah, it could be 2050 here, which is why they didn't put it in New York, because they didn't want to imagine what sort of tech they'd have there or what that would look like in the year 2050 in the Marvel universe. They put it in this small town.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, but that
It,
shows me also the Marvel world. Um, I mean, they could have had issues also. Maybe they had other Thanos type events that slowed them down, or I guess Wakanda doesn't. Maybe they stay. Well, hell, Wakanda may have been to war with Atlantis by that point. But I don't know. I'm just looking at it from the comic book world view
well,
of 2050, and they have vacuums that look like they're from 1960.
well, I think you look at the like what happened with the whole blip stuff. It took out a lot of different people. So for 5 years or whatever, it may have set the world back a little bit. We go back to Cap and uh, Winter Soldier and Falcon. Well, Cap and Falcon. I don't know what they called it. I don't remember. I gave up after like episode 4. But they you look at that, they talk about how the blip affected a lot of people. So fast forward 30 years, you think we should have been able to basically retract from that, but I don't know. I don't know how much, who was it that was gone in a blip? How have they been able to focus? And, Larry making the Napoleon Dynamite reference was exactly what I was referring to, because my mom's side of the family is from a really small town in, a rural area in Illinois. And holy shit, like it is very, other than having like nice cars and maybe some nice TVs, like the way they dress, like everything is very back. Like it's not current. It's very, 15 years back, and setting in an area like that. But, talking about vacuums, dude, I still have a Kirby vacuum that looks like a 1960s fucking like the hotel looking vacuum, and it works better than any vacuum I've ever used since then. And so
But I was also thinking in terms of you have the like I said, this is a world with helicarriers, and y'all couldn't have figured out a way to evacuate these people. It's just like I don't know. It took me out of the episode a little. I was just like, well, goddamn, like You know, the Marvel, and it's the MCU. You know, it's one of those things where, like you said, you in one vision, you're like, oh, here's Wakanda, and then on the other, you take a great movie like Logan, in which they're into the future too, and they're more advanced, but they still, they're in the deserts, and there's famine, and there's all these horrible things happening to the world, and it's affecting them in a way where everything looks, like Midwest. So I guess that was the thinking.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, like, you go back to even like other shows, like Mayor of Easttown, and with the exception of when you're seeing Siobhan and her friends, like that could have taken place anytime between right now and 1982. Given the way people are dressed, and
I mean, but my only thing is comparing Mayor of Easttown and a Marvel thing to me are pretty radically different.
Brian, because you know helicarriers that Shield is able to include all these. We have a person like Vision that wasn't like a supernatural thing. He was created through technology. So I understand what you're saying. I guess it's me and Larry's way of justifying it. It's not.
Well, I guess Logan's a good example that fits in with what you're saying. I'm just saying, looking at the MC, looking at it from a purely, this is super comic book world where they have space stations, aliens live on Earth. Mm-hmm. You have Thor, you have magic, you have Stark Tech. Look what Stark Tech has achieved in a couple years. What will they have achieved in 30? And apparently nothing, not much in certain parts.
Well, I wouldn't say it's 100% justifying it. It's trying to justify it because it does make sense, because it takes a while for technology to trickle to those more rural areas. And it's a more realistic way of portraying the Marvel Universe if you go to rural Alabama and you're not seeing all this Stark Tech.
Well, as of right now, too, Tony's gone. So
yeah. It's like, even though it will get a little harder to explain as we get like our Mr. Fantastics and things.
After we see the Armor Wars, we'll have this conversation again. The Armor Wars and Atlantis rises up, and the secret invasion.
Well, yeah, and I'll still remind you that, like, even in places like our hometown, Brian, roughly the area that you and I are from, that shit ain't real. They're like, so they got armors, they got this, they got these automated Stark vacuum cleaners. It's still 2001 here.
Well, with Tony not being there, but like you said, they've talked about introducing Mr. Fantastic, but Jesus, I don't know if they're ever going to do it. Like, I keep waiting for them to do not a reboot necessarily, but like including the Fantastic Four into the current Marvel MCU. But it makes sense with Tony not being there that there's certain technology that hasn't advanced. However, there's a lot of people who are equally as important to advancing technology in different ways. And I guess they didn't focus on some small town in Alabama. They're like, we're not giving you our automated robot vacuumers.
You're gonna use security cameras from 60 years ago. And
yeah. In those, well, put it. I think that was their reason for doing it. I think that was their way of not addressing those things. It's like, well, we're going to set up this future stuff, and when they're like, well, why doesn't this look like this, or why didn't you spend money on that? And also a budgeting thing, of course. Like, they were like, well, it was in rural Alabama, so this town doesn't have those things, but there's a lot of opportunities with this show, and I think it was a way of skirting even around showing certain futures that may affect the movies. Like you mentioned, your concern with Falcon and Winter Soldier is like, they're not going to do a lot of things because they really don't want that to affect the movies. I think if they establish certain tech and certain things, they're like, well, now that kind of has to happen. And if we touch on the future in any way and it doesn't look like this,
True. Like I said, we're like I said, we're entering a world where, well, let's see what they do with the Eternals. That's another big one. Marvel is they're doing these shows, but like you said, they got to be careful because they got to think about the future of the films. They don't want to do too much. Like you said, oh, this is Alabama. This thing wipes them out. You know, we don't want it to affect other films. And it's in 2050. We'll never get to 2050. You know, in the movie. So,
well, I thought you meant in life. I was going, Jesus, Brian. We'll never get to 2050.
No,
like
not.
We might not, but
at this point,
Who knows?
yeah, honestly,
but
yeah, you have the sacred time. The biggest question for me also is what is it that they're doing with the whole sacred timeline? What is the reality? What is the real truth about it? And what is this variant trying to do? You know, clearly destroy it, but why? And what would that actually lead to?
that's still very much a question. What is their plan? But as far as the sacred timeline thing, like you're mentioning something that, you know, does kind of, or at least in future episodes will bother me, because, you know, I was expecting more of a quantum leap or or what was the other one, or like a sliders type scenario with this show. And you know, when we are jumping, yeah, with the Bureau, they're giving me some weirdness, but when we're jumping to places, we're not getting a whole lot of weirdness or a lot of, you know, variations from what our timeline would be. And I kind of hope to see more of that, instead of, well, we're going to a rural town in Alabama, so we don't have to build a certain set, or we're going to, you know, this desert area so that we don't have to build a set. You know, I want to see, you know, what makes these, like, especially now that it seems like, you know, they may have split the timeline to some degree, given that what we saw in that device, and that may be her plot to split the timeline for some reason. I want to see weirdness. I want to see variation, especially now that that's been done. What does the TBA have to clean up? Why do they have to stop this? I want to see those reasons, you know, the things that could go wrong.
I don't know. I laughed a lot at the beginning of the episode when they were in 1985 Wisconsin, and they were they were at the Ren Fair. They're like, you guys aren't dressed appropriately. Like, you guys are in the wrong garb or whatever. I just thought that was funny. But when you look at the timeline thing, the only reason I'm nervous about this, although on the same note, it gives me hope, because when they said that the TV universe is not going to play into the movie universe at all, but this, just from the beginning of it, seems like they're explaining the beginnings of the multiverse, like how this is going to affect the multiverse. And it pisses me off, because it makes me worried that by the end of this, it's once again not going to matter. And that's my fear, is that we went through 2 different series so far, both of which were great until the end of it, and you realize that it doesn't fucking matter. And that is my fear with this, is that it's been well done. You know, Tom Hiddleston does a great job. Like, everything in this has been well done. You know, Owen Wilson's doing a great job. Like, everything in this it's fun, it's entertaining, but by the end of it, is any of it going to matter? And that's my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Or is this their way of basically setting up their TV universe, where the TV universe is different?
Well, yeah, and that's a way they could do that. And, you know, given the focus of the show, we can definitely get a lot of plot lines that are very big and very epic and do affect things, and yet don't interfere too much in the movie, or in a way that, you know, they have to retcon it too much, you know, like, because it's about a multiverse, and it's about this, you know, this group that maintains some timeline. We can touch on a lot of big things. You can use, you know, big characters in certain ways that, you know, that could still matter and yet not mess with the movies.
One of the things, I mean, the whole concept of the TVA and the way it was explained in the last episode, I am worried that they've poked a lot of holes. I don't even know because they've blended multiverse and time travel and everything all in such a way where, and even one of the big reveals in this episode was the idea that you could hide in an apocalypse or right before an apocalypse. You're setting up a lot of shit, and I don't know if how, you know, this goes back to what we always complain about certain movies. We're like, well, where was that hero at?
Yeah.
Why didn't they come in and help? Now we're going way off the rails, into which, any kind of thing that happens in the future, like, well, why didn't they do that, or why didn't this happen? I mean, it comes with world building, but I don't know. We'll see what the truth is about the TVA, because I have my theory is that a lot of what we've been told is not true, and that's going to um, be a big deal, and specifically the timekeepers, how the TVA works, even the sacred timeline itself. I think there's a lot of misinformation purposefully being given to these employees for the TVA, and maybe that'll clear up some of these concerns, but something shady does seem to be going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I also agree that the timekeepers probably aren't real. In fact, I think that that explains the scene from the trailers. Where you have the Loki and he's wearing the suit, and there's the vote Loki button. I think that comes out, and I think eventually the TVA has like an election of some kind, and Loki wants to be head of the TVA.
Well, and I think too, you look at the way with the Eternals coming and the way that they've explained what the Eternals are these in fact some Eternals? Like, there's a lot of question marks, but once again, they've already stated that the TV universe and the movie universe aren't going to intertwine. So a lot of the questions and explanations I have that would help everything make sense, according to them, aren't even an option. So I have no idea.
Yeah, because I that's going to be one of the, if they do that again, where you get to the end of the episode and everything is wrapped up in a nice, neat bow, and it's like, well, you didn't have to watch this show to. It doesn't truly impact anything going forward. But then you look at what's coming up. You got the Spider-Man movie, which is supposedly a bunch of multiverse stuff. You have the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. You would assume that the events of this show has to some way affect those films, and that maybe what this variant is doing is going to directly lead into those. But like Spencer said, I think it probably won't. I mean, I think it won't. I think the conflict that is established in this show so far will probably be resolved by the end of this show, and that the conflicts in those films will be something completely different.
And that to me is a missed opportunity, because they've done such a great job of setting up all these moving parts to where, if you know what they said, all the TV universes are going to tie into each other, but they're going to be separate from the movie. Then what I would do is start tying all these TV universes together. However, then you wouldn't be able to include the TV people into the movie universes, because, you have Wanda and Vision and Loki, all these people who are going to be in the movies. Why would they be in the shows then? If they want to do a separate universe, then just make them separate. You can't keep using the same people in all these different avenues and then be like, well, none of these matter to each other. Then you're making me less interested in watching the standalone TV things if none of them matter. Because I loved WandaVision until like the very end. And then then we found that out. When we found out they didn't tie in together, I was like, well, that fucking sucks, because all these theories I have aren't going to matter unless it's their way of trying to distract us. And I have no idea. I just don't like how they're approaching it currently.
Yeah, and I get that too, because it kind of deflates your excitement to know that, okay, well, by the end of this, they have to circle back in some way. And this is one of the shows that really doesn't, because it doesn't have to circle back. It doesn't have to 100% correct everything, especially since you're dealing with time and space and everything. It could have some big plots that intertwine with the movies, that sort of adapt in certain ways with each movie, and they have the ability to be a little more freeform with this series if Marvel will let it. And and like you're saying, perhaps they should let some things from the TV show affect the movies, because it just really, because like you said, you get the idea of, why does this matter?
Well, and my thing is that if they set it up to where it's basically just hints at who the main bad guy is or something, where it doesn't, like if Loki said something in this, it wouldn't necessarily affect the plot of one of the big movies, but it may be like a little name drop or a little clue towards who the big bad guy is until you finally see him. So like when we're talking about Mephisto would be a great major villain for Phase 4. You could set him up and through Wanda and just kind of keep name dropping. Through Loki, it's already seemed like that, although somebody said that the devil picture was what Loki was depicted as, and I was like, I don't know, I don't buy it. But anyway, they you look at all these hints towards Mephisto, it would be great if they were just hints and then they paid off. It doesn't directly tie into the storyline, but make it relevant in some way or some form and make me care, make me want to watch these, because right now I still haven't seen the last episode of Winter Soldier or Falcon Winter Soldier because I didn't care. I loved WandaVision, but then once I found that out, it kind of upset me, and I was going to go back and watch it because I liked it. But this show, as much as I've liked it, as much as I like Tom Hiddleston, as much as I'm not a huge Owen Wilson fan, but he's doing great in this.
He is.
But all these characters who do such a good job in this show, am I going to be resentful at the end of it? And God, I hope not. I hope that it's great, but I'm apprehensive to trust that gut instinct that it's going to be good.
Well, yeah, and just as an example, like how great would it have been in prior to Doctor Strange to sort of get an idea of how dangerous Dormammu was, just something that preceded that movie that gave you an idea of that, just much in the way that a lot of the extended media for Star Wars, gets you really hyped for those movies, gives you an idea of what your villains are, who your heroes are to some degree. Really fills in those gaps. Because I remember, like, back in the day, and they do a good job of it now, too, but back in the day, even though, well, and I'm not going to go into my arguments about these movies. We'll be here all day. Even though I didn't like a lot of those prequel Star Wars movies, a lot of the extended media got you excited for each movie. You'd see villains that would be in the movies, and, some of them were, some of them weren't, but you got this extended version of the battles that you've seen, and you've got the battles in between those battles, things that led to those future events. And it was really cool. It got you real hyped for each movie, even though, after each movie I was disappointed. I was like, oh, well, this is going to be great because it ties into this book and this comic and this TV show, and
there's one thing this show could do, and if they do it, I'll say, you know what, good job, and I'll give them a little applaud. Kang the Conqueror, we know is happening. We know he's supposed to debut in the Ant-Man Wasp movie. So that annoys me first. But if his name isn't dropped, or even an appearance would be nice, way ties to this storyline, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like that'll be ridiculous to me. With the fact that we know he's coming, and we know if he's not tied to the story, I'll be pissed. And I hope he is. If we get an appearance, that'd be cool. If we get a name drop, that would be cool. But if he's not in this show, that'll definitively tell me they're keeping this shit separate.
Right? Yeah, and it's one of those things where, yeah, he's such a big character, especially when it comes to these things, and it would make sense to sort of for his character in the way that they like to, sort of, like you said, explain things or simplify them. It would make sense for him to start off working for the TVA, given his abilities, given what he does. This would be the place to start him.
There has to be. To introduce that character, it makes a lot of sense that it would be in a show like this, especially since we know he's coming really soon. But I mean, we'll see. But yet again, we'll see how they handle the Eternals. The Eternals are on their way, and I mean, for those who don't know who the Eternals are, basically gods, and they're coming. And guess what? They've been here the whole time. And so, we'll see how they explain all that. But I don't know. Marvel's getting And to be fair, they're trying to be a little more ambitious, and they're trying to crank out a lot of content, but they're starting to get to a point now where not all of it's completely gelling, and it's sort of like that doesn't make sense. And we already had issues with that years ago when you had certain films would pop up. What was the one that really bothered me? It wasn't Winter Soldier. Maybe it was Winter Soldier. It wasn't. I can't remember. There was one in which I was like, "Where the hell is the other?" Oh, it was Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3. I was like, "Where are the other heroes?" Like go back and watch specifically Iron Man 3. It takes place after New York, the Battle of New York, and we have an event in which the president is kidnapped. It makes no sense that the other heroes don't appear in that film. And yet they don't. And that was one of the first sort of like head scratching moments in the MCU where it's like that doesn't make any sense. Where's Cap? And
especially it was the president.
That's what exactly. I remember when that movie came out. I was like, "Well, where the hell are the other heroes?" But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the sort of thing you at least want, pieces of these shows to show up in the movies, even if it isn't because if you want to see we're doing this whole thing with Wanda and Vision. Like if you never saw Agatha Harkness ever again, then it's a little odd to have such a big villain.
That's true. She'll never appear in a movie.
Yeah, and if Enchantress shows up, and we're doing all these Thor movies, and if Enchantress survives this series, it'd be weird not to see her in any of the Thor movies. So hopefully there are at least connections.
I think they showed a picture. I want to say Star-Lord is going to be in the next Thor movie, which makes sense because Thor was hanging out with the Guardians.
Yeah.
So Star-Lord will appear.
I was going to say, wasn't he supposed to be in the Guardians movie?
Yeah. So I remember everything got shaken up, and then so there were some changes. But yeah, I think that was the original intent. But now they're doing the Thor movie first, and so he'll be in that.
Yeah, because if I recall, the Guardians movie was supposed to be first previously.
The whole phase got shaken.
Which is going to be stupid too, because you look at Thor's going to be jacked as shit, and he was just fat. So it would make more sense to have the Guardians first, where he was fat and out of shape, and then all of a sudden he was like, you know what, I got to get my shit together. And then this happened, as opposed to now where he's just going to be, because he's working out for Hulk to be, Hulk Hogan, not Hulk like in Bruce Banner, but he's going to be jacked as shit, and he just was fat as hell.
Wouldn't that be great though? He's working out to play the Hulk, and he's like, oh, well, we CGI that, right? You don't have to actually bulk up.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. Did y'all see the leaked images from of him and Natalie Portman from the film?
I think I saw some. I saw like a T-shirt that leaked.
Yeah, that was it. It's pretty cool. Look it up. Anyone listening, the costumes are pretty sweet actually. He's holding Stormbreaker, and she's got his
Mjolnir.
original. Yeah, and her armor is comic accurate. It's dead on to the comic, and his armor is pretty cool. Oh, he's got the gold. He's got like gold now trim all in it. So image looked pretty neat to me. I like Taika Waititi, so I have faith that he'll do the right thing and make a good movie. I like Ragnarok. I think Ragnarok gets a little too much praise because there are some issues with it, and specifically a lot of the Asgard stuff. But everything else is absolutely great. Everything that happens in involving the gladiator stuff and trying to escape, and Loki and all that stuff's amazing. Valkyrie, but.
And maybe Taika Waititi can make me like Jane Foster as a character for once, which
good luck. That's the
ultimate
test.
Feat.
That would be an ultimate feat if he can pull that off.
Oh yeah, and people say that it's like, well, she wasn't really given very much character or very many lines in the movies, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's true. that's true. I'm like, but in the comics, not a very interesting character in the comics either.
No.
In my opinion, even when she was Thor.
Not interested in the comics. And in terms of the films, go back. I think Natalie Portman did a decent enough job in the first Thor movie. Dark World, she didn't give a shit. I don't care. I'm going to say it. Her performance, she clearly just didn't want to be there. And, you know, hey, maybe it was the script. Maybe she was. Well, maybe it was the script. She was like, yeah, I don't have much to do, so
right,
whatever. She didn't want to be there, and then it proves it because she never came back, you know, until now. She didn't want to be a part of it, but Taika Waititi is good. I believe he's writing it, or at least co-writing it, and he pretty much everything he does, I love. So
true, very very true. You know, and it's and he can. Yeah, I feel if anybody can make me like this character, it's Taika Waititi. You know, and that's not to say that I wasn't excited about, you know, female Thor, because like initially I was, because I thought, okay, is it going to be Storm? Is it going to be Valkyrie? And then they said it's Jane Foster, and it's like, oh, there's never been an interesting story about Jane Foster. Okay.
Still.
What are you trying?
But yeah, Loki,
Jane
the best.
Foster is my.
Oh, what'd you say?
I said Jane Foster is my Thor.
There you go. She looked cool. That was the only thing I liked about it. I like the armor.
It's like if Taika Waititi can make me like Jane Foster as a character, I'll buy that T-shirt, Spencer.
To me, the best part of the episode is the dynamic between Tom Hiddleston and Owens. You know, Mobius and Loki, the detective work, all that stuff. I loved all that. I was really into it. I like, you know, the third act of the episode, the very end was very almost horror film ish. Them in, you know, the storm and the dark building and Enchantress or whomever, you know, body hopping, and I thought all that was done quite well. Even the little twist at the end where he goes through the portal. Where's he going? What does it mean? What is her plot? I thought that was all handled well, but like I've complained before, and I'll continue to complain. My fear is that it's not going to go anywhere. Truly, we'll see. Hopefully, I'm proven wrong. Y'all have any other things you want to discuss regarding Loki or MCU or anything?
Well, yeah, you know, just like you said, I really hope it matters. I am enjoying the ride so far, and I do hope that they, you know, that they stick the landing here, and that it's different, and that, you know, maybe there's another twist, and it doesn't lead to the place that I complain about these things leading to all the time, where it's like, oh, you're fighting a mirror image of yourself, which, you know, even if it is just Enchantress, not as a female Loki, if it is just Enchantress versus Loki, it's still almost that. You know, it's like, oh, this trickster, this deceiver, like you're fighting a mirror image. That's getting a little old, and if they shake up any part of the Marvel formula, I hope it's that, because I'm so tired of seeing heroes fight themselves.
Well, I think it'd be a cool way to do it is that instead of them fighting each other, they end up teaming up to fight whoever is in control of the TVA. Because then it wouldn't be a mirror image of themselves. They would basically realize that they're on the same team and then going after somebody. That would be a more clever twist as opposed to, like you said, just the mirror image bullshit.
So it'll be them versus Mobius's boss then? Because I'm pretty sure there's no TV.
Well, yeah, but
that could be a good fight. You know, she has access to all that tech.
That's what I'm saying, is that to me it would be a more interesting thing than what you basically predicted, because that's what always happens.
True. And that could be very interesting, and it would surprise me, and I think make for a much better ending.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't it? There were no. I was thinking of other future Marvel projects within the Alabama sequence. We didn't see any mutants or vampires. We know both of those things are supposedly coming. Of course, they wouldn't be in that scene, but Marvel is, like I said, they're having to be a little careful, because supposedly you're going to be introducing a lot of shit really soon in this universe, And not that they would be in that particular scenario, but the world, the MCU world is in the next few years is supposed to radically change. You know, how they balance that, how they're able to tell these, especially time travel stories.
Well, I'll say
We'll see.
I'll say that much. Now that you've mentioned vampires, this brought me back to Taika Waititi, and my thoughts are like, man, I'd really love. Like, I know he
Should
mostly
do
does
Blade.
movies. Well, no, he shouldn't do Blade. He should be doing this show because think of the
Oh,
banter
yeah.
that you could get with that. You know,
Yes.
with the
God.
multiverse, Taika Waititi playing with the multiverse, and you know, like, and you're dealing with characters with different knowledge sets and everything, and he does well with that too. Like you've seen the whole Babadook thing and what we do with the shadows and
Yes.
stuff, and you know, like you have scenes where like Mobius is like, "There's no vampires," and Loki's like, "Of course there's vampires," you know, and that sort of thing. You know, it's just he's good with wordplay. He's good with, you know, just bizarre settings, and if the show's done right, and you know, you couldn't have a more bizarre setting, and you have an very interesting set of characters.
Have a What We Do in the Shadows version of Blade.
I'd watch that.
I'm, spoiler for what we do in the shadows, but you know, you kind
Well,
of got the
yeah.
reverse of that.
True.
Yes.
Yeah. um, it is funny. This is way off topic, but who cares? Nobody watches these, and they usually downvote us to shit on these videos anyway. So, if you're still listening, cool. But when they announced Blade was coming to the MCU, I was so excited. I'm a big fan of the character. I love the original films, the first two, but that did get me thinking. I was like, well, wait a minute. If Blade's coming, that means vampires are in the MCU. And that means Dracula's in the MCU. And then you start thinking about the histories, and you're like, you're gonna have to explain that. And now that's a thing that heroes have to deal with, and you know, they're gonna have to explain that kind of stuff. And the more stuff they introduce, the Eternals is a good example. Some people were complaining when that trailer dropped. They're like, yeah, so gods lived here and they just let Thanos do whatever he wanted. Like, what the hell? And people legitimately are saying, yeah, the more you start introducing these elements and saying, well, no, they were always there. It's like, well, if they were always there, then why did XYZ happen? And how come this happened? And this does, make sense. And then you could even take Thanos out of the equation. Remember, Ultron was going to drop a city on Earth. He lifted an entire city and was going to crash it onto the Earth, destroying it. They didn't think to maybe, we might want to get involved.
Well, yeah, and it's one of those things where this show would be good for explaining that. And some of these weirder things like Dracula that you mentioned, that's the sort of thing that you could easily address in this show and would be interesting and perhaps even humorous in some parts to explain. And as far as big plans like that, like Ultron and Thanos and stuff, and you're like, well, why weren't these godlike beings involved? Like, yeah, they're not good guys, but they don't want the universe destroyed or ruled by this guy. Like, you could easily explain that by saying, like, well, yeah, but they were involved in this time war during this time, with the TVA. So, it's a good.
Yeah, I think they'll just say, "Oh, they took an oath not to interfere anymore."
They probably will.
I think that's what they're going to do. Yeah,
it'll probably be that sort of thing. But
yeah, instead of doing a good job of explaining away, like you just said, Larry, they're just going to do a line of dialogue that was just like, "Oh yeah, well, they said they wouldn't interfere. They said that's not their business." Instead of making it make sense, they're basically just going to write it off, because I think that them spending 30 minutes over the next 100 movies to make it make sense, they're just going to spend 30 seconds and just write it off, and just they're going to make billions of dollars anyway, so they don't give a shit.
Yeah. And they're probably going to do that, but this show could be such a good remedy for that sort of thing, or at the very least a really effective Band-Aid.
Oh, I agree 100%, and we talked about that before, even when we were watching WandaVision, how this would be a great way to kind of explain stuff and give backstories without having to do it in the movies. But now they're basically saying that these don't intertwine with each other. So it's, once again, you're still going to have to do the backstory movies. And I'm like, that's dumb. That's asinine to have this platform, to have this ability to basically go back and not retcon, but kind of undo some of the little plot holes and fix them. They're basically just like, we don't give a shit. And that to me is the frustrating part, is that they had this opportunity. Disney was basically like, hey, we need you to put out content every 4 months or every 3 months. And now you have this opportunity to fix all of the things that were not necessarily wrong, but a little irritating, I guess. And they're pissing that opportunity away. And that's the frustrating part to me.
Yeah, but there's so much potential there, and I hope that eventually, somebody sees this that even if it is, the powers that be saying no, you can't go here, and no, you can't go there, they realize what this show is and what it can be, and that eventually we do go there. Even if it's not in this season, and maybe a season 2 or a season 3, there's just an unreal amount of potential with this show to, like Brian was saying earlier, to explore some of those weirder areas of the Marvel universe.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think they're doing that the What If series.
Because we, they slightly addressed it, but, people were pointing out, like World War II, for instance, that we've already hit the point where people are like, well, why didn't Wakanda do something? Like, because when you establish certain things, then you have to go back and start realizing, well, if this was a thing, then why didn't they do a thing? And it's like, yeah, they just were like, no, we're not doing that. I mean, they sort of explained it in the film. They was like, yeah, we were like, no, we're doing our own thing, and fuck the world. And the whole idea of T'Challa saying, you know what, that's bullshit. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to help. So it was a story arc, but the Eternals, that I guess it's going to be a similar plot where there's like, yeah, we said fuck the world. We're not going to do anything. But yeah, we'll see what Loki. There was that one line of dialogue where Mobius was like, "Yeah, we deal with a lot of Loki variants. Like he's like the number one variant they deal with." And they had the different Lokis they were showing, which I thought was interesting also. And I get now correct me. So every variant they basically just kill them, wipe them from existence.
It seems like they use the word reset, but it seems like they've established that they actually just kill them.
Yeah. Yeah, I very interesting. Anything else, guys?
No, I think I think we covered all of it and then some.
Yeah.
I mean, I could throw 30 more theories, but I think
we just change this to MCU talk.
That's
funny you say that. I was thinking that.
It's basically what it is, yeah.
Because the way we do this is a little nebulous. It does connect to everything, but that's because the Marvel universe is so interconnected.
Yeah.
That it's hard not to talk about these other things when you talk about these series. When you know them the way you do.
Exactly, and the fact that they're just. I mean, hell, this year alone we got how many movies we got? We got Black Widow. Next month we got Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man. All that's this year. And I don't know about I don't know what other shows dropped this year, but there's a shit ton of shows in the pipeline. But yeah, like you said, interconnected sorta. But yeah, we will do another review next week, another MCU talk. I guess I might put it in the headline, the tag. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.